last 2 years plotting and all of that stuff and getting ready for today, but we also ended up doing these two big broadcast shows, and we really wanted to talk about them. So I'm going to invite up a couple of the organisers, so give them a big round of applause. Billy and Andrew. I just realised that I've called you Andrew. I've never called you Andrew before in my entire life. Andy and Bill, right, I'm going to sit down.
Yeah? Really old.
Oh, right. We're going to have Katrina with a microphone, and she's going to be running around later. So if you've got any questions for us during the course of this panel, then please, by all means, ask away. Doesn't necessarily need to be about this panel, but if you've got any questions about TFNation in general as well. What we normally do at the end of every Sunday is, well, at the end of every convention, the last panel that we'll do with the organisers up on stage, basically just making sure that everything went smoothly and that you had a great time and all of that stuff. But we're kicking it off this time.
What we did on our holidays.
Yeah.
Wait, we didn't get a holiday, did we?
No, we didn't. So I suppose probably, as much as it probably pains people to talk about this, it probably best to start with the cancellation of the last TFNation. Billy?
Slight correction.
Okay.
Abandonment of 2020. Cancellation of 2021. Because it matters legally. So that's what we have to say. So yeah, that was a big event we had planned. And
it was, yes. Did anybody buy tickets for 2020?
Is it still a sore point?
Yeah.
It is for us. It is for us as well.
Yeah. Shall we talk about the disappointment?
Yeah. So, well, let's just go straight into it then. Peter Cullen. Okay. So
you may have heard of him.
Play some characters in some shows. So that is a guest, a potential guest that has been requested an awful lot over the years. Very, very popular. To give you an idea, in fact, should we throw this out there? Right, okay. Just shout this out, right. How long do you think we would have been talking with that guest to try and make it happen?
5 months.
3 years.
6 months? 5 years?
3 years.
3 years?
2.
9. That conversation predates TFNation. That's how long that process took. So I'm really angry about it, regardless of how many else feels. But yeah, so it was a big show that we had planned. It was something special we wanted to try and do, and that I have to say he was fully on board with. And then the world did this funny thing, and that went away. And that's not nice from our point of view, because I think Mr. Turnbull, I might hand over to you, but you to give a quote that you gave to me once when somebody asked about this. Someone asked us, how did it feel to abandon that show? And Tony used the quote, it felt like telling almost 2,000 people that we were cancelling Christmas.
And you guys were Christmas for us as well.
Why the government?
Is that?
Why the government?
Well, unfortunately it wasn't the government that was emailing and posting on social media saying, by the way, TFNation's cancelled. They were trying to do other things at the time, but I'll let you comment on whether you think they were any good or not. This is probably not the forum for it, but we know everyone looks for it, and we do as well, because, and we'll talk about it more probably on Sunday as well, the work that goes on behind the scenes from a lot of people who don't always get the credit as well for doing things, and we'll talk about a couple of them in terms of the big broadcast as well, that goes on behind the scenes. So all this effort for this 2 or 3 days where we go away in a little bubble, where the outside world stops. And it's a release for people. It's basically the highlight of people's year. And you're basically saying, oh, by the way, yeah, it's not happening. Particularly after the build-up for Cullen, it's like, oh, anticipation's there, the tickets are on sale, it's great, this is what you're getting, this is what's going to happen. And then as it goes on, we kind of were having the conversation about is the event going to happen? Is it going to be less attendees? Are we going to have to limit it? Are we going to have to split tickets? So like 500 if you can come on a Saturday, 500 on a Sunday, and it can't be the same people. And it's like, that's the best scenario. And even then, when we're having the conversations, like, that's not really the best. That's least worst. It's probably and then it got to the point of, yeah, this is not happening.
And to be fair, it's so when you cancel/abandon an event, there are a lot of things behind the scenes with the event. There's the venue, there's the production crew, who we will give a big shout out to at some point, by the way. Maybe not this panel, because we want you working hard, boys, but later. Because I'm on stage, to be honest. But there's an awful lot of stuff that you have to untangle before you can tell the person who's bought a ticket what's happening with the event. So we were at a stage where, I think it's fair for us to say this, we didn't feel comfortable. And I remember a conversation where it was dubious as to whether there would be an event ban, and we were taking the decision, even if there isn't, we might just pull the plug on this anyway, because we don't like the idea of running an event at that time in that atmosphere. So we had an idea for a little while, and we were working away on it, but at the same time had to keep working on the events. This was the soul-destroying part, because if everything turned out okay, we would have cancelled an event, which then would have been absolutely fine. Nobody knew how long the pandemic was going to last. So yeah, it was really weird working on cancellation and propelling it simultaneously.
Yeah. So we get to that point where all very, very upset about it. You know, as you say, we've been building to this in some way, shape, or form for 9 years. But you know, we've talked about it for a decade now between the three of us. And you know, it was the fact that we'd announced it and all of that, and then we had to almost take it away as well, which was just a horrible feeling. And through all of that misery, one of us had the bright idea to still do a show. Now, I can't remember which one it was, but it was probably Mr. Turnbull.
Yeah, they'll be discharged.
And we were thinking to ourselves, okay, well, you know, at the end of the day, in August, in the UK, you expect a Transformers convention.
I booked my holidays off work as well.
You had, yes, absolutely. And so we decided that if we couldn't come to Birmingham, we would just come to your house instead, through the magic of the internet, obviously. Not actually rocking
Door
up.
to door would have been a bit labour intensive, and I only get 2 weeks annual leave if I can go around everyone's house.
Yeah, so we decided it would be a really good idea to put on an online show.
Not knowing anything about putting on an online show.
We didn't know, because we're all old men.
You may have noticed.
Yeah.
We hide it well.
Yeah. We didn't know how to stream. We didn't know what platform to use. We didn't know what kind of show it was going to be or anything like that. And this was decided in a WhatsApp chat. And I wish I had a screenshot, I really do.
I'm glad you haven't.
But let me put it this way, the chat went something like this. We should put an online show on in August. Okay. And that was about it. That was literally the sum total of the thought process that went into it. Or at least the inception of it. So we started planning the big broadcast.
So, first of all, one of the people on stage who I won't name, you may want to admit themselves, started talking about, right, we'll start off the name for this virtual convention, this virtual con. And it's like, thanks, Grandpa. Are we accessing that via the information superhighway, perchance?
What is it, Billy? It's a virtual convention.
It's a virtual convention broadcast via dial-up connection.
Okay. So the name.
It's got tech stuff, okay?
As you can see, showing our age. So then comes the naming of the event, which was probably the most contentious part of it, because it's trying to get something that's different from. Because we didn't want to call it TF.Nation-Online or something, because it's not TFN. It's going to be something different. Hopefully, and those of you that watched or experienced it, I think we captured a flavour of TFN. but it's not quite the same as being here. And so we're trying to capture that taste. So it's like, what are the names? So we opened out to everyone in the sort of the crew, give us your ideas, no matter how bad they are, because they will spark other ideas. And there were many, many bad ideas. I'm not going to name them all, or any of them, to protect people who may get defensive who are sitting in this room. But you'll notice that, so eventually we came up with, I say came up, I stole wholeheartedly from an old wrestling pay-per-view called In Your House, because I noticed the trademark had lapsed. So we went, we're going to have TFN in your house. So it's like, then there was a couple of arguments because people get really upset with us about wrestling references. Hi Ed. He is staring daggers at me now even though I can't see. But it's like, that we felt, that sums up everything. So we're coming to you. And so I did the logo for it. It was all designed. And it's like a week before it gets announced, WWE decided to renew the trademark and announce they're doing an In Your House event. The said WhatsApp group we were in, on the Sunday morning at 9 in the morning, the week before, it's like, we bad news, WWE are going In Your House, we can't call it that, it'll look like we're cashing in and it's lazy, we're going to have to think of something. The we meant you. And that point, like, it's 9 o'clock on a Sunday, I've got nothing in me. But thankfully, the panic kicked in, and then someone else came up with a better idea. So Billy said, just an off the cuff.
Redeemed at this point.
Yeah,
Thank you.
partially redeemed. You still can't call it a virtual con in our chats.
Private, it's fine.
That
was for us.
The people need to know that. So Billy just off the cuff just goes, what we call it the big broadcast. And it's like, yeah, genius. I can't think of anything better. It's like, sold. So we then still had less than a week to announce it. So it's like, I need to now do a logo again and work on that. And it was kind of clear. Visually, TFN, we always kind of look for a theme or a dress. Each year it kind of varies a bit. So it's kind of, I wanted something that was very flat, very 50s cartoon, to be honest, and then kind of ran through the announcement. It's like, okay, we're calling it the big broadcast, it's on this date, here's the logo, here's a little shotgun hanging off. By that point, we still don't know what we're doing. We don't actually have any content or anything in mind in terms of how are we going to do it. But we'd announced it, so we kind of nailed our colours to maths. It's like, okay, we've now committed, we're going to have to do something now. What do we do?
So, one of my roles in this convention is that I put the show together most of the time. It's a case of, right, we've got these guests, this is what we can do with them, this would be interesting, and most of the time, I'll be perfectly honest with you, it starts with people coming to me with ideas. Hey, I've got this great idea for something. Oh, that's a brilliant idea, we'll do that. And that's great when you're doing a convention because you've got your blocks set out, you know exactly how long a panel's going to run for and everything like that, and it's going to be great. With an online one, we had no idea. One of the things that we realised very quickly is that we can't do hour-long panels on the internet because people would just turn off. So we needed to shorten the length of the panels to about 20 minutes. So fortunately, we have a pretty good back catalogue of guests that we've had previously, and we thought, wouldn't it be great to touch base with them, more so to see how they're doing and getting on during this weird time that's going on in the world. So we emailed all of them, thinking not all of them will reply. And not all of them did, in fairness, but enough did to make my life a living hell. Because it turned out, over the last couple of years, a lot of people haven't had a lot of time to do a lot. They've been sat in the house. So as soon as you turn around and go, hey, do you want to do this thing where like it's going to get beamed out to hundreds of people and, you know, we're going to have a great deal of fun? They're like, yeah, okay, great. Except for the fact that they all decided to email me in the same 2-week span about a fortnight before the actual show. Now, could you imagine having to turn around to a voice actor or somebody like that who you've asked for help and gone, actually, mate, we don't have time. So instead, now look, there's cameras recording here, right? This does not get shared anywhere. Fortunately, I was working from home. I spent about 2 weeks back-to-back Zoom calling with about 10 or 11 people, just doing these panels to get it all ready. So we get all that done, and we're still trying to figure out, okay, what is going to be the cherry on top? What can we do with this show, with the big broadcast, that we can't do at this convention? And I guess I'm not speaking out of turn here, but one of the people that we were able to get for the big broadcast for an interview is a guy called Corey Burton. Anybody know Corey Burton?
Just a guy.
Just some fella. If you've been to Disney, you've heard Corey Burton's voice. If you've watched Transformers, Animated, you have heard Corey Burton's voice. If you've watched Star Wars, you've heard Corey Burton's voice. He is ubiquitous. However, he doesn't do conventions. Well, apart from when Disney, I suppose, tell him that he's doing one. Yeah, but he doesn't do them. Now, fortunately, in 2019, do we have any fans of Transformers Animated in the room? Does anybody remember what we did in 2019?
Yeah.
Which I literally live my life by. It's like the greatest thing that I ever did. So in 2019, we had Marty Eisenberg over, and he was kind enough to bring us the script outlines for what was going to be the first 3 episodes of Season 4 of Transformers Animated. And then, it feels so weird saying this now, and then he had the idea of trying to get the cast back together to record it, which we were going to keep as a surprise, which we did, and it was incredible. And one of the people that he got in touch with was Corey Burton. So I had him in to Corey. So I'm like, if we can get Corey Burton, this would be fantastic. Now bearing in mind that my one and only conversation with Corey Burton prior to this had not been great. So when we knew that we were getting Corey in, Corey is a professional, right? He is one of the all-time great voice actors, but he is a professional. Now this gives you some idea, I'm peeling the curtain back a little bit, this gives you some idea of how much effort we put in to the Transformers Animated thing in 2019, which was that we hired a recording studio in LA to get some of the voice actors to actually record their lines, so it was all done as professionally as possible. We knew Corey was going to be in the studio, and Marty, who was liaising with me at the time, said, "Do you want to speak to Corey Burton?" And my little inner fanboy is going, yes. The phone call comes at 2 a.m. Hi, it's me. Hi, Marty. I've got Corey on the line. Okay. Corey comes on the line. Hello, David. Hi, Mr. Burton. I hope you enjoy the work that I've done for you. Pause. My brain tries to come up with something, anything, any kind of thing that I could possibly say. And instead, to Corey Burton, one of the all-time great voice actors of this generation or any, out of my mouth comes, "Well, if it's not good, you'll do it again."
Shame! Shame!
So needless to say, I'm worried that Corey's not necessarily going to be interested in being interviewed. We sent the email off, literally an hour later, he messages back and he just goes, "That sounds absolutely fantastic. I can't wait, it'll be really fun. And the only thing that I can assume is, I was so unmemorable." And so we got Corey Burton, and it was fantastic. It was great to be able to sit down and talk to, you know, a legend like that, and then to be able to present it to you in the big broadcast, because it's something where, you know, as much as we've tried, you know, there are certain guests that, unfortunately, for one reason or another, we're never going to be able to get over. And so we started putting all of that together, and I ended up with about 10 or so interviews. We had Corey Burton's interview, and then we we had an idea which involves one of our guests for this year, which is Nicole and Brian, and I'm going to turn over to Mr. Turnbull to talk a little bit about our little secret surprise that we had as well.
Is that not the second one?
No, that was this year. Yeah,
The lockdown script? Is that not?
that was the first year.
See,
Yeah.
all the memories going. So it's like that one. It's like we've got the rest box. We know enough of the voice has. Can we do like a little audio play, like a script reading, which we've kind of assigned? We've not redone one because the animated one was slightly different. So it's like, okay, so let's do a rest box thing. Yes. So it's like, what are we going to do it about? We'll do it about lockdown. We'll do it as if they think it's a character. So it's like, okay, so who's going to write it? And oh wait, it's going to be me that's going to have to write it. No pressure here. So kind of wrote it, and then we had a few people rewriting it and redrafting it because first drafts are always awful. And then gave it to Nicole via Dave, and Nicole looked at it and went, yeah, I'll do much better. I think I've got a couple of lines managed to sort of that.
Yeah, so Brian rewrote it and turned it into just this really great, like 20-minute little radio play. You know, with the sound effects and all of that, as you would like an old-time radio play. And it was great. Like we got all of the original Rescue Bots back, and you know they all did the recordings for free and stuff like that. So, and that was something that we just kept secret. It wasn't on any schedule or anything like that. It was just like, let's be honest, I was trying to relive my glory from 2019. It was like, you know, and it was so much fun. And we had all of this content, hours and hours and hours worth. And I sort of looked at Mr. Turnbull and I was like, I don't know what to do with any of this. And then we wrangled in like the superhero of the show.
Yes, so we kind of thought, well, we can't just have, like obviously normal shows, Dave, Katrina and Jan or one of us will come up in between panels. It's like, you can't really do that online. Like, here's a video of an interview and then here's a random video of Dave coming in and say, oh, and I'm going to introduce another video. How can we get around it? And I think it was your idea, like, can we do it like a talk show or like a...
Yeah, so what I've done is I've recorded all of the interviews on Zoom, okay? And here's the dumb thing, right, which I never thought about, because I'm not a video editor or anything like that, and I don't know anything really about technology, because I am old, okay, and I just shout it. Is that when I recorded it, I didn't realise that the way Zoom records it is it records the person that is recording on the left-hand side, which seems obvious, and then the other person on the right. But the problem was, the way I was facing, it meant that when all the videos were put out, we were facing the other way. We were looking away from each other, and I was like, oh, well, this is absolutely fantastic. Like, can't put these videos out. So, this weekend, there's going to be a man, well, there's going to be a few men knocking around, but there's one specific person called Chris Carter. Has anybody heard of Chris before? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Chris has, he's worked on comics for Transformers as a colorist.
Yes, for I agree.
And he is our lifesaver. He is the guy that does all of our intro music videos. And does an incredible job on it. And I went to him and I basically said, I need your help because you understand this video business. Can you do something with all of this? And he was just, without a moment's hesitation, he turned around and went, yep, no problem, we go with this. And day after day after day, I was bombarding him with more and more stuff. Right up until the Thursday before, we started on the Friday night. Literally that Friday afternoon, I'm having him edit videos together. And he was just absolutely incredible. And throughout the big broadcast and sequel, Big Broadcast 2021, he did all of the video production for the most part. And it was fantastic. So he's not here yet. I wanted him on this stage, but he turned around and said, oh, I'm going to get there about 3 o'clock. I was like, well, that's not good.
So we fired him. Yeah. It was a shame, but we'll get over it.
So I am at some point over the weekend going to give him his just desserts.
That sounded really ominous.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? No,
that's a mean line, though.
But just for the sake of any recording video and stuff, give Chris a round of applause because he. as well, but we also had some incredible artists, which
Well, I think we go back to the idea of, like, we'll frame it like the talk show, so it's like the Sentinel Prime idea, and obviously Dave then goes cap in hand to Townsend Coleman, but we've got this Space Ghost Coast to Coast Gary Shandling idea, or rip-off, your mileage may vary. Would you be interested? So we'll let Dave hand it, because Dave's on better terms with Townsend.
So, yeah, exactly. I have not insulted Townsend Coleman in his face before, yet. The night is still young. But, yeah, so I'm talking to Chris, and we're talking about videos and things like that. Now, my brain, like I say, it can come up with ideas, but only when somebody else gives me an idea, right? I'm the guy that turns around and goes, oh, well, we could do this. Basically, if you say I can do this, I'm going to turn around and go, how can I use this? And Chris comes up to me and he goes, I've been messing around with some cartoons. I'm like, all right. Like, yeah, I've been making cartoons. That's all my brain did. So I'm, sorry about that. So I'm like, well, what can we do? He's like, well, I don't know. Like, and he shows me a little bit of animation that he's done. And I'm just like, this is fantastic. What we need to do is we need to create a talk show for Sentinel Prime. Now, did anybody see them? Yeah? We'll play some over the course of this weekend, right? But they were brilliant. So we go to Townsend, and again, you know, he's in lockdown, he's not doing a great deal, and we're just turning around and saying, Mr. Coleman, you know, have you ever seen Space Ghost Coast to Coast? Now, that might be a bit of an old reference for people, okay? But if you don't know, Space Ghost was a cartoon character that was created in the 60s, and then in the late 90s, they basically brought him back as the world's worst interviewer. He had a talk show called Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and it's genuinely funny. It really is. It's very dated, but it's really funny. And we thought, well, Sentinel Prime is perfect for that. What happens after, because here's the thing, I have a TFNation headcanon, right? That whole thing you saw earlier on with sound barrier, I know where that's going, right? And so I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking, right, well, we know that at the end of Transformers Animated Season 4, we know that he doesn't become Magnus, or he's probably not going to become Magnus. So what does he do? Well, he becomes a TV personality, doesn't he? You know, and I have no love for certain, you know, evil TV personalities, but that's what Sentinel would do. And so we did it. And, you know, Thu was brilliant. He you know, did a video review for Sentinel Prime, which then Sentinel tore to bits. But we needed all of this artwork.
So, directorise the door and give Mr. Ed Perry a round of applause, because he is most of the studio art for us.
Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you artist, Mr. Ed Perry.
Ed and I did sort of the models, electricity, all the rigging, and between us, we wrote the scripts and then we wrote each other's stuff, and it was, as you imagine, as dumb and puerile humour as possible. And we sent a whole raft of scripts to Townsend, and he goes, I'm doing 5 of these. That's your lot. I was like, and there was a couple they just went, nah. I'm not getting involved in that.
But it was that. We got Paul Eining, Preceptor, in there, which was a fantastic one, where Preceptor got infected by a virus that was knocking around. It was the hate plague, don't worry, it wasn't that one, that other one. But we had him. Mr. Peter Spellos joined us for one. It was just so much fun putting together this stuff and getting to share it with you all. And like I said, we'll put some of them up during the courses of the gaps that we've got in the show for you to have a look at. We're half an hour into this. I really do apologise, because we've just finished the first one. But we never intended to do a sequel.
No.
You know, the show happened, it was a great success. I think everybody had a great time. It was so much fun, and then unfortunately we were forced to do a sequel. But this time we knew Mr. Carter could do things, and we just sort of handed it really all over to him.
Yeah, it was the one handy thing. Is we're going to need to do it again, and then it's like, okay, so let's start doing the logos and all that. And Ed just goes, "Here's your logo." It's like, got round to it. Nope, it's there. It's like, and at that point, Ed and I kind of shared you. He says usually one does a piece of work, and the other one kind of looks at it and goes, "I wish I thought of that," which is entirely what I think. Yeah, you swine, that's fine. It's on the way. And again, at that point, it's trying to think of, we can't just do exactly the same as well. Anyone who's been to our panels on Sunday will know I always thought you can't ever look to try and top what you did because it's just a recipe for burnout. But you think, what can we do differently? So it was just kind of, can we tweak this a bit? Can we do something else?
If I could say something on that actually, excuse me, and to back up a bit, when we were planning the big broadcast, the first one, that obviously went hand in hand with the abandonment of the 2020 event, and we were encouraging people to take refunds. We knew that TFNation couldn't really survive indefinitely like that. Well, not really, it just couldn't survive indefinitely like that. So, and I don't think it's wrong of me to say this, that we went so all out on the first big broadcast because it had to stand up to a TFNation, albeit not the same, but it also had to stand as the last TFNation because we didn't know if we were coming back, which is why leading into 2022 it was like, okay, now we need to do this again, and it could also again potentially be the last TFNation. We actually don't know because we don't know how long this pandemic's going to last, and the financial situation is crippling, so we didn't know when this was going to end. So that's when I decided to do a bit of the Billy thing, and it was a very small thing, but you've got Mr. Wallace involved in this, and I always think to sum Dave up as like, if someone said to me, what is Dave's like primary skill? I would say Dave is an incredible storyteller. It doesn't matter what medium that's over, whether it's on stage or the story of a show, bookended, start to finish. Dave's incredible at storytelling. You've got Mr. Turnbull on the show, and Mr. Turnbull does an awful lot of our production, be that printed materials or artwork that ends up on the big screen. So you've got storytelling, you've got the visual, and then you've got the incredibleness of Chris Carter, who pulled it all together. Then you've got me, and I'm good at spreadsheets, but I'm also good at messing with people. And I like both of them. So it was only a small thing, but like if it was potentially the last TFL, the last chance, I needed to screw with you. So like, I remember speaking to the guys, probably in that same WhatsApp group, and I was like, we're doing a PDF ticket this year, aren't we? Yep, we're going to do a wristband on a PDF so you can print it and feel like you're involved. Okay, cool. Have you got space on there for a square about that big? Because I want to make a viral Sentinel Prime email address. And it's going to be email in to be entered into a competition to appear on FaceTime with Sentinel Prime, which nobody had seen yet. So you print your ticket and it's like, I have no idea what that is, but it's a transformery competition. And like, it was wonderful watching the entries come in, because I just set an auto response from Sentinel Prime, chastising anyone here for speaking with him. And it was just like, that's my little bit, because I don't know if I'm going to have another bit in this event, so let's just make sure everyone knows that they are ultimately filthy humans. And he has no interest in you.
That's really terrifying, because now I know that you've tried it once. You're just going to try it again, just to be able to say that. So
I know it works, yeah.
So, we won't spend too much time talking about the second one. We went ahead and did it, and over the course of ever since 2019, people have been asking, can we get the Transformers animated reading put online? And if you remember back in 2019, we basically told you can't record it, anything like that, because ultimately it is still owned by Hasbro, and Hasbro hadn't authorized it or anything like that. And so it was just one of those things where, you know, I was talking to Marty, and I was just saying, like, you know, wouldn't this be, like, great? You know, and it was constant nudge. Go on, come on, it's already done. What's the worst that can happen? You know, if it makes you feel any better, they'll go after us and not you. And, you know, I think Martin just eventually got tired of me pestering and was just kind of like, look, you know what the deal is. I can't tell you to do what you want with it, but you've got the file. Well, that's all I needed to hear. Yes, I have the file. And so then we decided, well, you know, we had a couple of images for it, which if you watched it, sort of helped to storyboard what was going on. And I think in 2019 we had 12 images.
I think it was, yeah, it was the 4 that you could buy as a set of prints.
Yeah.
There are still a couple left out there, by the way. I do recommend them. Very nice.
Yes.
And at that point, it was, yeah. And so at that point, we kind of went through the list of the scenes, and it's like, okay, let's do a little bit more. And thankfully, the art team didn't tell me to go and whatever myself. When I went back saying, guys, remember we did all this stuff for animated before for us? You fancy doing it again with an insane deadline?
Yeah.
And again, Ed, Gav Spence, and the Hirsch Battle all said yes, and we just went through and was like, okay, let's try and chuck more art in.
Now, what we did was we cheated a little bit as well, because we managed to get our hands on the backdrops for Transformers Animated. So we were able to sort of just drop images in. And so what we wanted to do, we didn't just want to stick it out there and just be like, hey, there you go, like we've repeated it and stuff, because you've already seen it before. I think the image count went from 12 images in 2019 to, I want to say, something like 70. Now, bear in mind, that's not all 70 original pieces of artwork. A lot of that is Optimus Prime standing on the left side of the screen, Optimus Prime standing on the right side of the screen. But there was so much fantastic new artwork done that it almost felt like a completely different experience to try and create the most.
I'm going to correct you, though. 70 finished images.
Yes.
The actual images that a certain someone was putting together the day it was broadcast.
Yes, I did. I turned around to Mr. Turnbull and I was just like, this show goes out tonight, but I still need some artwork from you. Can you do it for me? Yeah, you'll have it in 5 minutes.
Can I get this tweak? Yeah, not a problem. Yeah.
We had words about that when we happened.
Anyway, so that's what we did. We ended up doing 2 years worth of online shows, and then afterwards, some weird fellow with some weird hair went on the telly and went, yeah, everything's fine again. And we were just like, is it? Okay, let's do another one. So here we are! Thank goodness. Right, Katrina, have you got a microphone? Anybody got any questions? Oh, that's great. Run!
Please think of some questions.
Yeah, there's a hand over there. Come on, Katrina.
Yeah, you're young. You should have
Really, it's been a long morning. Right, here you go.
Hey guys, yeah, obviously 2020 was pretty bad for everyone in quite a lot of ways. My wife actually ended up stuck in New Zealand for an extra 4 weeks because of it all. Did you get, I hope the answer is no, did you get much grief from people for having to cancel 2020? Did you get much grief from people?
No one attacked us because everyone kind of knew this, and I think everyone understood we was upset as them. I don't think it was any kind of satisfaction of, yeah, it's cancelled, it's done. And to kind of go back to something Billy said a while ago, we kind of did a lot of the public-facing sort of statements and that, because we went through quite forensically to try and, because it's a horrible message, so you're trying to make the language as soft as possible, but still at the end of the day you're saying, by the way, I'm taking Christmas off you, please don't hate me. But no one was really angry with us, but just angry at the situation. What can you do? Is that you can't go and beat up a virus. We'd have done it by now. But to go back at that point, so we're doing that, and the Mapes brothers were sort of handling all the behind-the-scenes stuff in terms of a lot of the queries about kind of refund, could we roll over. We kind of touched on that as like, the idea was, ideally we're snookered here, but we know everyone's struggling, so it was always a case of, can I get a refund? It's like, yes, absolutely. We know we're all struggling. People are losing their jobs right, left and centre. At the end of the day, much as we love this, and everyone here loves this, in terms of your real life, remember what it is, it's just a daft remote convention. You do have other priorities, keeping your house. Sorry, that's true. I say the unpleasant things, you should know that by now. But
Young lad down here.
What is it like working with other creators like Gavin, Few, Chris and so on?
Terrible.
I've been friends with Gavin for years, so it's kind of, I also know a lot of the people that we work and produce stuff for TFN are people that we've got to know, so you can kind of go, I need this, and you'll give them like a one-sentence description, and you can just go, right, away off and do it.
Did you see the health and safety video at the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, so all of the artwork during the health and safety bit, that was all Gav. He did that in about 3 days for me. The basics at the end, Thu's review and Gav's review at the end with sound barrier, all of that was done. I literally, to give you some idea, I told Chris McFeely about my idea on a morning and I had that video literally a couple of hours later. That entire video was put together in about 5 days, literally in the last week. So they're brilliant, they really, really are. They're just very incredibly talented individuals who you can rely on, yeah, so they're great. Yep.
Just a couple of questions. One thing I want to understand is when you're trying to organise this convention and you go to this no convention, there's a pandemic. In terms of the finance for this type of event, how do you plan that? Obviously there must have been a complete shock of how much money do you have in the bank. Just trying to understand how you had to figure that one out. And the other question really is online. David probably doesn't want me to mention this one, but I don't feel you advertised the hair dye enough. You could have made much more out of that with the number of hits trying to get the hair dye.
I was hoping nobody would bring that up.
I've been saying this for 2 years.
Yes, so for charity I dyed my hair pink for the big broadcast.
The amount of times he messaged me about that though, I'm convinced he really, really wanted to.
oh yeah, he thinks he does protest too much.
Some days it was constant.
It's not.
I think the
My wife hated it, therefore I have to hate it as well.
I think the finance part of your question is probably me. So if you don't like spreadsheets, tune out for a minute and then they'll be entertaining. So specifically in this period, obviously because it's different. So essentially what we did was self-funded the big broadcast. Now obviously you don't have to hire a hotel for the big broadcast, but you have to hire stuff. And we knew that, as I say, that there was a risk we may not come back. We were pretty adamant we would, but the point was we didn't know, like, if the pandemic had gone into yet another year, at which point do the finances run out. So that's why we'd always, what we'd done behind the scenes, and you didn't know, but as well as encouraging people to take refunds if they needed them, we put funds aside to refund the people who didn't want a refund, in case in another year's time there was nothing we could do. And then it would be abandoned ship, everyone gets their money back, and we'll pay for what's left and we'll just go. In terms of transitioning from that into this convention, to be honest, I don't mind saying this, internally we've almost run this convention like a Kickstarter, or like you have unlock goals in a video game or something. So in 2020, to give an example, we knew who all of our guests were, by which I mean contracts were locked in by like October time or something, and then we were planning on the release schedule. Whereas with this event, we knew which guests were locked in, as you found out, because it was just a case of let's lock a guest in. Okay, people are happy with that. Let's see if any tickets sell. Right, we've sold some, let's lock a guest in. And then it's not just things like guests, because you know they have to fly over and stuff, that's where that comes in, but it was also like the AV, and this is where I will give the shout out actually. So Our production company that we'd used for every TFNation was one of the many, many companies that no longer exists because of the pandemic. And one of the big fears that we had was we've got guys who really know our show and who can not only put our show together for us, but who can knock together any changes we want on the day because we know them so well. Where are we going to find a new team like that? And we're so lucky that our production manager over there, Simon, who we refer to as Cool Simon, because there is another Simon, we refer to him as Contract Simon. I talk with him quite a lot, you might have guessed, but Cool Simon, and John's over there as well. I can't see who the other chap is. Who's the other chap living over there? Mike. Oh, you Mike. I've no idea who Mike is. He seems nice, but definitely there were a few of the team were able to be pulled back together, and they reached out to us, and we're just so thrilled about that. Honestly, they're with us every year, and I've never done this, and we really should. If we could give the team at ProTech a round of applause. The reason I want to bring the ProTech team up in a finance conversation is because they know our events so well that not only do they know what we need, but they were able to work with us along the way. So like in our first conversation, there may not even have been a stage. We might have finally done away with David Wallace and had a smooth show. So we've upscaled as finances have allowed, and that's basically how it's gone. And hopefully, in about 2 days' time, we'll know whether it worked or not.
So hold on a minute, are you telling me that you're paying for me?
What do you mean, like spiritually?
Right, we've got time for one last question over there.
Hi, thanks. Just with regards to the learning you might have taken away from doing the 2 live shows, is that any way being incorporated or changed what the in-person event is today or maybe in future?
I want to say not really. So, as you mentioned before, we knew that we couldn't do the same kind of show. You know, doing this in person versus doing it online, it had to be different. Especially given the fact that the big broadcast we did for free. Now, originally we weren't going to, and I'm going to mention this very, very quickly. Let me tell you, never ever love your ideas, right? Because I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to leave this as the last thing to end on, all right? Originally, the big broadcast was going to be a video game. You were literally going to log into a website, you were going to have a little avatar, and they were going to run around a little map of the hotel. Now, a lot of people are looking with their faces going, that's amazing. No, it wasn't. But when we first saw this interactive thing, basically the idea was your little avatar was going to be able to like run to desks, and you would click on it, and all of a sudden Nick from Toy Food would pop up or something like that, which would have been a terrible idea. Or you would have clicked on another one, and a video would have started. So rather than it being one continuous show, you would have watched it at your own pace by going to different panel rooms and clicking on a video, and then the video would have popped up. And we saw this and we thought to ourselves, this is amazing.
Not we, thank you.
Not we, one person. And Billy and I, as soon as we finished after the demonstration, Billy and I sort of jumped on a call together and we were like, this is fantastic. This is going to be amazing. Literally, the next morning, we woke up and literally almost in unison sent each other a message going, that will not work. That's a terrible idea. Yeah. So there was all sorts of different, so to go back to your question, there was all sorts of different ideas in regards to what the big broadcast was going to be versus what the actual convention is going to be. But I think looking at them as 2 separate things is probably the way to go, because let's be honest, I never want to do a big broadcast again. That's not because I didn't enjoy it, it's because I enjoy this so much more. I enjoy seeing all of your faces. So,
Not yours, Raymond.
wow,
Something like
solid. So yeah, anyway, I think that's our time done. Yes, it is. So, listen, thank you all so very much. We wanted to come on stage at the beginning, basically just to talk to you and just tell you what we've been up to. We hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't watch it, the big broadcast 2022 is still available and it's up on YouTube, and you can watch all 11 hours or 12 hours of it.
There will be a quiz.
And
Work into that.
And you know, if you don't want to watch it, don't worry about it because you're here in person and hopefully you'll have a fantastic time. Fantastic, thank you very much. Thank you, Billy and Andy. We will be back in 8 minutes with our next panel, so don't go anywhere, or alternatively, if you want to go grab a drink, and we will be right back with you for another one. Thank you, bye.